Is that, do you go into the writing process with that in mind, that you have to present this full picture so that we understand what's happening?
Well, you're referring to an LAPD homicide detective named David Holmes. He's now retired, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say he had his own transformation in the course of investigating this case. Just as I came to know Giovanni and saw, I would say, his humanity, and discovered that, you know, I was obsessed with learning about him right at the same time that he had this need to share his story and to be understood and seen. Detective Holmes, he was trying to solve a murder case, but he came to really identify with the victims, particularly Francisco Clemente. So yes, this was you know, an illegal immigrant doing illegal work, and yet Detective Holmes saw him as an honorable man. Like, this guy's salt of the earth. He's trying to take care of his family. He's a hard worker, and he realized, yes, that he could help legalize his status, and he had to jump through a lot of hoops. There was a lot of paperwork, it drove him crazy, quite frankly, but he was willing to do that for Francisco. And I don't think, well, I know he's never done that for any other, you know, crime victim. And look, his own colleagues at the LAPD were like, what are you doing, man? You know, why would you take this on? But he saw Francisco's humanity and knew he was in a position to do something about it.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take one final break, and we'll be back with the final words of Jesse Katz. We're back with the author of The Rent Collectors, Exploitation, Murder, and Redemption in Immigrant L.A. The author is Jesse Katz. Jesse, we've talked about this horrific shooting of the 3-week-old child. Who was that 3-week-old child, and what happened to the child's mother?
Yeah, this little boy, his name is Luis Angel Garcia. His mom was a vendor. One of the reasons she was out there with her baby is she needed to make money to buy diapers and stuff like that. She didn't have health insurance. She didn't have much of a safety net. Unfortunately, perhaps understandably, she went off the deep end after this happened. She became involved in drugs and had an arrest, and sadly, you know, kind of dropped off the map here. And, you know, one of the tragedies is that the police and the prosecutors couldn't use her as a witness because they knew she would be attacked on the witness stand.
Giovanni was sentenced to 51 years in prison. Is he sorry? Does he feel like he did wrong?
I think Giovanni knows he did wrong. One of the things that I respected about him from the very beginning was he never made himself out to be a victim of the criminal justice system. I do think there were a lot of forces that conspired against him to put him in that situation, but he knew he did wrong. He knew that he deserved to be in prison. Being in prison probably saved his life, quite frankly, because something else would have happened out on the streets. I know he feels great remorse. At the same time, there's not really a system set up for him to express that to Francisco. He's never met Francisco. Francisco's never met him, other than these seconds out on 6th Street in the MacArthur Park neighborhood 17 years ago. So it's all kind of abstract for both of them. I think there's an opportunity for forgiveness. I think there's an opportunity for redemption, but there's also a process that he has to go through, you know, before he can earn that second chance.
You're talking about the forces. One of the most heartbreaking scenes in the book is Giovanni and the interrogation of Giovanni and the forces at work there. And we'll go into that during the audio podcast, but we have 30 seconds left. I just want to ask you about MacArthur Park. What is MacArthur Park today? Is it a place that I can go to?
Yes, you can. Maybe not at midnight. It's still a beautiful area. It's used extensively. Maybe it's overused and it's under-resourced. There are a lot of problematic things swirling around MacArthur Park, and yet, you know, I tend to believe, like, life goes on. You know, people survive, and I lived there for 10 years and never had any problem. but I also saw really terrible things happen right outside my door.
Yeah. Well, Jesse, congratulations. It's a terrific book, and I hope people will read it. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
Once again, the book is The Rent Collectors. We will continue with the questions for Jesse on the audio podcast, which drops on Wednesday. We'll see you next time.